Welcome you lovely lot, my name is Adam Shilton from Spotted Fin and ASFishingTV, and we're here today at the beautiful Bay Malton Border Fisheries on a nice club water. We're just sat really close to the car today, and we've just come down for a very quick short session really. It's freezing cold, it's only 3 degrees this morning, it's warmed up a little bit to about 5 now, but it's still really cold, and we've come to give a brilliant, almost forgotten about rig a go really, called it's based on the Paternoster, but because of fishery rules it's got to be a running rig. So today we're looking at my version of the running Paternoster rig. But what I want to do straight away is get you into the bait, have a little look at some of the mixture that we're using today to go alongside our maggots, and we'll see if we can get into some fish. Come and have a look. So within this process today, let's have a look at some of the bait that we're going to use just to get them grubbing around a little bit really. So not a lot with it being so cold, but nonetheless just 2 little mixes, one that's going to be quite dense and one that is going to be a little bit more active, so I could swap and change between the 2 or combine them if I want to as well. So it gives me a little bit of choice on the bank really. So the first thing, obviously, we're looking for everything that swims today. So more of an active ground bait. We've got here Spotted Fins Roach Super Blend in the dark version. It's really lovely, fluffy, light ground bait. It hasn't got too many particles in terms of feed, but it's bits like bits of husk and hemp, things like that. So very small ground up pieces that just give you that little bit of activity should you want it in the swim. Obviously, because we're looking at roach and skimmers and things like that today, that's the ideal thing. The lake that we're on is a very silty bottom, so I've gone with dark just to match that basically. But again, you know, a really useful mix to have. And this one I'll be mixing this quite light, like traditional ground bait essentially. What I also needed to include was Spotted Fins Milled Expander, and I've also got this in darken as well, simply because there's so many pellets that goes into these fisheries, this lake behind us, and again this is a bit denser, so I can have this just sort of sit on the bottom. So what I'll do is I'll mix up both of these today, one quite light, one quite dense, and it means that I can swap and change between the 2, just put a little feeder and then just drip feed some maggots over the top. So hopefully it gives us the best of both worlds. So there we go, this is my choice for today. So as I said, I'm going to do the dark Milled Expander. Is going to be really dense, so again I'm not going to need a lot, so I'm just going to pop some in there. Okay, really not a lot whatsoever. You can see that I've got the sun directly in my eyes. The benefit of these bags is you can just give them a seal up, and so just make sure the air's squeezed out. Okay, with this one, what I'm going to do is we're going to put it slightly flat, and I'm literally going to make it like a slop with it being dense. Okay, so I'm just normal lake water. I'm going to add a little bit in, give it a mix around, and what I'm looking for is almost like it's ruined. I just want it to be sloppy basically. What it'll do is it'll soak it all up with it being Milled Expander. It soaks it all up and it becomes almost like a cake. And then once you push it through a riddle, you get a really nice fine ground bait, but it's really heavy and dense, which is exactly what we want. So as you can see there now, that's not quite a slop, nearly. We can just touch more water. There we go. And give that a good mix around. I think pellet based ground baits on these commercial style fisheries, and this is actually a club water today, but I think you've got to have them in your armoury really. So again, not a lot there. You can see that consistency. It's almost like a soggy paste that's gone a bit too far. Hopefully you can see that. But it's ideal for what we want. So I'm just going to leave that now while I get everything set up. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, and the other one, this is the dark roach. If you can get into it, make sure you don't take your rubbish home with you. Okay, so basically pretty much the same amount is what I'm after here. And again, this one is a bit lighter in colour and it's got more particles in it. I'll show you that there. So there's a few more bits in there, little bits and bobs, and again, this one's going to be a bit fluffier and a bit lighter. Okay, nice and so it is quite dark still, but it'll get a bit darker when we wet it up in a minute. So this one, again, I want it to be lighter, so I'm just going to add a bit of water at a time. And I'm mixing it in this tub rather than in the bucket because I don't need a lot today. So this one again, you know, with it being, you can see how it's darkened up in colour. Look at that, darkened up in colour straight away. And I want this to be slightly over wet just because it will absorb, but not like the other one. So more of a traditional mix when we're mixing light ground bait to the small feeder. So when that soaks up in a minute, that'll be a little bit on the dry side, but just enough to squeeze, and that's exactly what I want from it. And I'll be back shortly. I should show you the other one. I'm gonna push that through a riddle. And there we go. Okay, so I've been and set some stuff up now, and we're all sorted. So it's just a case of finishing off these ground baits. So we'll start with the dense one first, which was the milled expander. So as you can see now, it's gone like a cake. It's all hard. Okay, and really dense and damp, okay, which is just what I want it to be. Dead simple. I've got a 4mm maggot riddle here. Empty the bait onto the top. Just make sure you get it all out from the corners. You've got these square tubs, it does get stuck in a little bit. Okay, like so. And all I need to do then, it's just, you can see how clammy it is. I'm just going to push it through. So even though it's nice and fine when I've done this, I've still got that denseness about it, and it'll still sit on the bottom. And obviously, because of the way we're fishing today, we want them to be taking it just as it drops or just off the bottom. So we get that through, nice and straightforward. So you can see now that is just absolutely spot on. So it'll just, you see, it comes together really easy, but then breaks down as well. It's nice and dense, nice and heavy and wet. So all we need to do then is pop that in our tub. Okay, so that's for the milled expander, and this is the roach. As you can see now, this is what you would expect, a little bit on the dry side but nice and fluffy, which is absolutely perfect for what we want. So same again, maggot riddle, on it goes. So again, just going to push it through nice and easy. Dead simple to do, just traditional ground bait. And you can see now there's a few little bigger bits of biscuit and crushed hemp and bits of corn, stuff like that, and I don't really want the big bits in too much. Okay, so I'm going to bin those, but what I am left with is the smaller, finer stuff, and it's really light and fluffy. So again, we'll squeeze together, but you can see it breaks up nice and quick, and I want that to be more active on the bottom and be giving off all of the aminos and fizzing in the water, just as I want it to be. So in that goes, that's our Roach Super Blend Dark. Straightforward, ground bait ready. Let's go and see if we can catch some fish. So here it is, the running Paternoster actually in action today at this beautiful water. You can see another video that's just been released on this in detail, so it gives you the absolute details and specifically around it, how to tie it up, everything that you need to know. But just as a quick summary here, I'm using 018 mainline Map Optimum, which is about sort of £5, nearly £5, so it's strong enough to do what I need it to do, but also nice and fine and delicate with small fish today. I've got it on a waggler link swivel. Actually, I prefer them because they just slide up and down the line really well. You can use a link for a normal swivel feeder link as well if you want. And then coming down from that, I've got a boom of 3 inches, which is thicker line than my main line. That is actually £8. Same line again, and then obviously a bomb at the bottom, which I can change something lighter. I can put a little feeder on it. I can take this little boom off here and put a feeder straight on the waggler link swivel if I want to do that and fish it like a feeder rig, running feeder rig. So I've got lots of different options available. That comes down to one of the map stops there. I've just got that on a knot, and then I've got 6 inches. So what happens is it just kicks it out like that, 6 inches of my main line, and then loop to loop on my hook length. My hook length today is 20 inches of 011 optimum power by map, down to a Camazan B911 18 hook with double red maggot. So really simple, really straightforward. As long as you're careful with your casting, you'll have no problems with the tip, making sure that everything lands in a nice straight line. So like I said before, the bomb goes in, enters the water first, the hook bait just falls down behind it like so, and it keeps everything in a nice straight line. So there's nothing then there's no intercept at all. Everything is completely free running. So as soon as the fish picks up that hook bait and moves off with it, it just means that there's no resistance whatsoever. Hence that really important that you have a nice light tip. So there we go, my version of the running Paternoster. Let's give it another cast. So I'm going to get myself into a bit of a routine. I'm just going to drop it in the edge like that there. I've got about 10 maggots in the pouch. I've got a marker on the far bank, so I'm just feeding to that marker, and those maggots are nice and spread out, which is what I want. I don't want it too tight. You know, I want to be able to explore a little bit and move a little bit past the area if I want to. See, the bomb's just going on the outside of where I'm feeding there. I don't want it to be really right in the middle. If I twitch it and bring it towards me, obviously that's when I might do that. And I've had a few fish like that already, but primarily I just want it just on the back edge of where I'm feeding. So I've got an indication there already. A little knock, there we go. Oh, we missed that one. So they're really fast. These roach, they bite so quick. You can see it's taken one of my maggots. The cheeky thing. But because I've just fed, I'm not going to feed again. It's very important that you don't overfeed it. So even though we've got to keep feeding because it's winter, we don't want to overfeed. So I'm going with the double red maggot purely for the fact that it's just a nice visible bait. But you can see how quick they're on it as soon as that bait starts to settle on the bottom. So I'll pick my marker again, keep everything in a nice straight line, sinking that line as quick as I can actually, but like I said, they're going to be on it pretty fast. And the tip, I've got basically no tension in it at all. It's just enough to pick up the line. I don't want any resistance to the bait. And it's so important then that your hand, sometimes I'll fish with it on my knee if it's really fast bites, but more often than not I'll put it on the rest, just because I like to keep it nice and steady, and it means I can have a nice cup of tea, which is important. So like I said, don't forget, pop that stopwatch off. I normally do it after, when I'm fishing like this, I have to do it after I sink in my line. If I'm like method fishing or hybrid fishing, I'll set it off straight away because it's just different method of fishing. But again, this will tell me. So before I fed, I had a bite really quickly, although I missed it. It was probably a very tiny little roach. This time I haven't fed, and just cast in over the top. So I'll have to see what the response is like. A few little knocks, there we go, and then we get fish on, just like that. So again, they're only small fish, so it's really important. Again, you've got sensitive tip, a really soft rod. I've got a little gudgeon. Not our intended quarry just yet, but nonetheless, in this cold winter months, good thing about gudgeon is you don't smash the maggots to pieces like the roach do. But yeah, it's cold winter months, it's nice to keep the fish coming to the net. So same again now, 10 maggots out onto my mark. Just letting them sink down. Bomb goes in just at the back of it and I'm going to sink our line. Nice and straightforward. There it goes. So that one told me that it's just a minute and a half, that was, for that to show up. So even that tiny little gudgeon on such light tackle, with the light rod and the soft rod and the soft tip, that bite showed up really, really clearly. And the biggest thing with this as well is that doing everything you can to keep your bomb and the hook length in a straight line on the bottom. If you just let it go in and leave it, this sinks first and then it just sort of folds down on top of it. So I mean, there's 20 inches of hook length, so it's got to pick it up and travel a long way before you see the indication on the tip. So there we go, tiniest little indication and we're in again straight away. So you know that when you're getting those tiny indications and you're into the fish, that everything is going well. I've got a skimmer this time. So it's perfectly hooked in the lip, that. So that tells me that my hook length is the right length for the depth and for what we're doing at the moment. If it's obviously swallowing the hook every time, then I'd shorten my hook length down. But that is perfect for what we're looking for. Beautiful little skimmers. So one of the biggest tips today for me is, even though it's really, really cold, I'm fishing in about 3.5 foot of water, so it's not deep. And I'm just outside the pole range, so it's about 18 metres, roughly. So I am clipped up at the moment, but it's just a case of making sure that the bomb and the hook length land in a nice straight line. So the bomb comes down, that hook length lands behind it, and we're hoping to do that every time. Just as it's sinking in, I just start to bring the rod towards me and just make sure that line lies nice and straight on the bottom. All we're doing then is getting really quick, typical roach bite really on the tip, so really, really quick little roach bites and little small fish. There's a few better fish in here we might get later in the day if we're lucky. Most of the time they're in the deeper water on the other side, but we'll give that a go today. But the whole point of this today is, with the running Paternoster, is bite detection. It's so sensitive, and with roach especially, you've got to be really quick with it. One of the things you have got to do, even though it's quite shallow water and it's winter, is keep feeding. So I'm just catapulting in about 10 maggots every sort of couple of casts. Because the water is quite shallow, really, it's a case of sink the line and the fish, you're getting a bite reasonably quick. Just make sure you keep feeding. That's a really big tip for me today. Number 2, absolutely vital piece of equipment, and you know what, I don't only just use this for when I'm fishing, feeder fishing, but I use it all the time. If I want to go in a match and I want to try like down the edge or something like that, and I want to just try it for 2 or 3 minutes and see if anything's there a bit early, I use a stopwatch all the time. It's an absolute must. What it helps me do is read what's going on the day. If my bites slow down and I'm timing it, I'll know. So I need to change the feeding pattern, or I need to do something differently. if my bites are getting quicker, and that also tells me there's a few more fish moved in the area. I need to keep them there, I need to keep feeding, keep the active ground bait going in, and see how we get on with that. But again, stopwatch every single time is an absolute must for me. It's a great little tip. Another little tip for you today is sensitivity. As I said, the whole design of the rig is to give sensitivity, and it's really important you use the lightest tip that you can get away with. So I've got a whole range with me today, and the one that I've actually got on the rod is just 1/2 ounce. Because I'm only fishing really light bombs and very light feeders, it's not too much of an issue. Just make sure the line is clear of your tip before you cast in. But other than that, like I said, give yourself the best, finest, especially this time of year, bite indication you can possible, and it will keep those bites registering nice and clearly, especially with this particular running rig, and it means that you can keep fish coming to your net. So there we go, a pretty forgotten method on the running Paternoster, just switching and changing there between the feeder and the bomb, and feeding over the top, and just reading what the fish want on the day to keep the fish coming, which has been really good. Fantastic use of the spotted fin ground baits that I discussed. Absolutely brilliant to be able to swap and change between the two. There's just so much versatility and quality there. It just meant that I've been able to do something a bit different and change it basically instantly today, which is really fantastic. So that's it. Please pop any comments in below if you want something specifically doing with any of the spotted fin products or a certain feature, and we'll see what we can do for you. My name's Adam Shilton. I'll see you on the bank very, very soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and we'll be back. Take care.